You are listening to the Novel Writing Podcast, episode 77. Grab a cup, cozy up, and let's get to writing. Today's episode is about when you do finally get to self-edit after your first draft is done. Remember, we don't want to do the critical evaluation of our first draft while we're writing it. That part comes after you have a story on the page with a beginning, a middle, and an end. I get a lot of questions about self-editing, starting with this one. How do I know if I'm ready to self-edit? AKA, how do I know when my first draft is done? Now, if you can answer these questions with yes, you probably have a finished first draft. It doesn't mean it's perfect. It just means that you have some semblance of a finished first draft. Number 1, do you have a beginning, a middle, and an end? Number 2, does the main plot wrap up by the end? Now, this is important even if you're writing a series. Each book in the series needs to have its own cohesive arc from start to finish, and any cliffhangers can't be for the resolution of that book's plot. So if you can answer yes, your main plot does wrap up and is answered by the end of the story, that's a good indicator that your first draft is done. And number 3, when you read the manuscript from start to finish, does it generally make sense? We don't want your characters to make a hairpin left turn in the middle of the book and take the plot in a completely different, unexpected direction than the one the readers think you're going, and then leaves the questions from the beginning of the story unanswered. Now, I think that's a pretty good starting point to determine if you're done with the first draft, but you can also address all of those things during rewrites and self-edits. As I script this episode, I technically have a first draft of book 3 done, and I say that with air quotes, because I have most of the story generally laid out and most of the chapters are written. But it's also not complete and not ready for developmental edits because there are 4 chapters that are mostly done and just need to be tied into the surrounding chapters and also maybe rewritten a little bit and edited and, just streamlined. I also have 6 chapters that I have started writing, but they're nowhere near complete. And then lastly, I have 4 chapters I haven't even started writing at all. I have had a weird time with the first draft of this book. I've cut over 7,000 words in scenes that are not relevant to the plot, even though they were fun to write. I also have 2,000 words of a scene or a chapter that I need to rewrite from another character's perspective and then slot it toward the end of the book. So I'm still technically writing the first draft. And once all the chapters are finished, I'll start my relatively quick self-editing process before sending it off to Haley for developmental edits. And that leads to the next question that I get from clients is what my self-editing process looks like. Now, I edit in Microsoft Word because it catches grammar mistakes and has a better built-in dictionary than Scrivener does. I also have the Pro Writing Aid plugin with my Office 365, which means that I can check the different reports right there in Word. I don't have to copy-paste chapters into the plugin or the extension on Chrome. The other thing that I use is Word's Read Aloud feature, because before I send it off, I need to make sure that all of the text and the dialogue and, how I wrote things actually sounds reasonable. The one thing I have to remember is that Microsoft's Read Aloud feature will butcher a lot of the names that I have in my story and a lot of the places, so I just have to give it a little bit of leeway for those things. In general, as I read through the manuscript from start to finish in Word, I will either fix mistakes as I go or make comments for myself to go back and fix it later. I will also address any of the comments I made in Scrivener and then clear up all or most of them before sending it for developmental edits. I know some authors like printing off their manuscripts to do a physical edit, which is a great idea if you're a tactile person, but also for copyright purposes. If you print out and mark up that first draft, transfer the edits to your digital version, and then mail the original printed manuscript to yourself via certified mail, and then don't open it when it arrives, then you basically have what amounts to Exhibit A in the unlikely chance that someone tries to steal or plagiarize your work and claim that they wrote it first. Having the sealed envelope of the first draft with your edits means that you can hand that to the judge, and the postmark actually helps prove that you're the first to write the book. Now, I hope that none of you have to ever actually give a sealed manuscript to a judge to prove IP, but if you're paranoid like a lot of authors are nowadays, it's a good idea that I will probably be doing myself for book 3. Self-editing will look different for everyone. My best advice is to research what other authors are doing, make some notes, and then jump in and just try something. Over time, you will iterate and refine your editing process. What you do for book 1 will probably not be what you do for book 3 or even for book 10. That's it for today's episode. Thanks for joining me, and remember, the first draft is supposed to be garbage. Thanks for listening to the Novel Writing Podcast. If you're ready to stop struggling and start finishing your novel, check out the 60-Day Novel Writing Challenge. It's a step-by-step program designed for solo writers to complete their first draft with clarity and focus. Visit the link in the description to learn more.